birria primero son mis clientes, mis trabajadores, que son como en familia, y ya todo lo demás. Sí. Ya todo lo demás. Ya con eso chingamos. Habiendo clientes y buena gente que sea fiel y trabajador, ya chingaste.
The success journey is 99% failures. Yeah. And then just the one that you just kept going, and that's the one that hit. Yeah. I think it's like that. For me, Cash was not my first company. I had another startup for about 4 years, and I tried my fucking hardest to make it something, and it just never really hit. And but like you have to just like learn when to let go, and then like move on to the next one, and realize that it's 10,000 failures and one success. You only have to be right once. Yeah. So how's that been for you? What keeps you going? What obviously like these iterations and failures are just a tiny piece in the grand vision. So what's that for you?
There's always that fear of failure. Like, what if I fuck this up? You know, what if I can't do this? Because it's the restaurant business, man. It's like, it's the number one, it's the most failing business in the entire world. Yeah. Not just in the U.S., in the entire world, carnal. But our people love to eat. And that's what I think has kept us alive for such a long time. You know, the mere fact that we're able to give our clients a special dish. It's a specialty dish, right? Yeah. So we've got that covered, you know? So the first thing, the first agenda, and I was planning this before I actually purchased the buildings off my dad, were I want to remodel. And the one that I wanted to remodel first was the one on 87th and Commercial. That's our first location.
That was the first one.
That's the very first one. Esa le dice mi papá la madre de todas las birrias. De ahí salieron todas las birrias, carnal. Créanlo o no. Pero bueno. So it was a big responsibility. And then, you know, my dad didn't want to retire. Yeah. So I have that on top of everything else. That I know that my dad didn't want to retire. Technically, the last 5 years, he hasn't really done much. Now the last 6 years, he hasn't done much because of illness, his ailments, right? And what happened was that I stepped in, and I wasn't ready. I mean, I'm 34 right now, and it was like I was 29. I still wasn't ready, carnal. You know, it's like, and I spent my entire life working there. And on top of everything, like, I'm over here knowing that I have kind of in the back of my head, I'm like, I'm going to run the business. I mean, I know I'm going to.
You knew that was your eventuality?
Because my dad always told me.
No, because you were the only male in the family. It's kind of like
and it's kind of like that's culturally that's
that's
what's expected, right? So then, behind closed doors, my dad was teaching me everything. Que con los probadores así se tiene que manejar, que esto y esto y esto y eso. Tú tienes que trabajar, cabrón. No, está bien. Whatever. I was scared of him. You know, I had the type of dad that didn't hit us, pero con su voz.
Yeah.
Hombre, yo creo hasta me mié varias veces, ¿verdad? y en la birria, bro, me dejaba ahí y le decía a los trabajadores, no, trátenlo como si para que aprendan.
Yeah.
And he taught me, so I was probably about 26, 27 when he taught me the actual formula.
Yeah. You have a really interesting story because obviously, like, your dad built this incredible business that's been alive for 50 years, like a breathing thing, you know, it's like its own thing now. And, you know, kind of like taking the reins of something like that, I think must be this huge weight of expectation. And maybe this is like, you kind of maybe fight it for a long time. And you kind of knew it would be your eventuality, but you wanted to see, you know, that maybe you could do something else. Maybe there was like, even your mom, maybe they wanted you to study, maybe to see, you know, if you could actually do something different, because it is hard work at the end of the day. And it's something I talked to with Marcos from Carnitas Uruapan. But ultimately, I think the legacy just calls you. Where you don't choose it, it chooses you. And then there's like a breaking point where you just say, look, it's almost like a duty now to continue on the legacy of those before you and to build up on that. So I'm curious to see what that turning point was for that, when you kind of come to this realization of, like, we have this 50-year-old business that's alive. It's a community staple. You know, where's your point of that? And like, what was that big switch point now where you go from being kind of like, you know, reluctant to take it to where now you say, you know, this is what I have to do?
There's a quote, and I love this quote. It's Shakespeare. Out of all people, Shakespeare, right? But it says, meet time as time meets us.
Facts.
Meet time as time meets us.
Love that. Right?
And the turning point in where I wanted to go and really wanted to explore the family business was when I saw my dad dying. And I'm like, this man built something out of nothing. He got here in 1967, and tenemos un dicho, ponte las pilas, ¿verdad? Y it was a Sunday. I see my dad, and I see him like kind of like walking very slow out the door in the kitchen from the back, because you could see it's a small spot. We have a hole in the walls, but they're a very small spot. And then I'm like, he's already been battling with some heart issues. Well, what happened? He was having a stroke.
Oh, wow.
So he had a stroke. He had to have open heart surgery.
Oh, my God.
And it was 6 years ago to the date, and I thought he was going to die.
Yeah.
And sorry if I get a little bit emotional,
Please,
but
please.
we didn't expect him to get out of there, and I remember strolling him off to surgery and thinking, I'm like, what the fuck am I gonna do? What now? I'm not ready. You party too much. You don't live a very decent life, I don't think. Luckily, my dad got back on his feet. He couldn't work. Yeah. Like his whole left side's paralyzed. He's walking with a cane. Ya no puede como antes. He tried. He got out and he got home, and he tried for like a couple months, and then he got too tired. Would you rather see your grandchildren grow up or
work yourself to death? Work yourself to death.
It could be in a week.
Yeah.
One day we went to go visit los compadres de mi papás, and it was in Mexico. We're sitting in the living room, and ahí están, teniendo una conversación mi papá y su compadre, y luego mi mamá y su comadre acá, y yo aquí comiéndome mis tacos, así bien, toda madre, ¿verdad? Y no sé de qué era la conversación, pero luego voltea a mi jefe, y mi jefe tiene una voz así. Y me dice, mijo, y acuérdese que si la montaña no viene hacia ti, tú ve hacia ella, cabrón, nunca te rindas. And I don't know why. I was like 8.
Wow.
I was like 8. But that always clicked with me, man.
Yeah. Bro, I love it because you have this incredible like monolith that you can look up to, right? Like,
yeah.
And you say these dichos, and I mean, I get the goosebumps every time I think about the stuff like that, because like I think Mexicans have the dicho is like a really someone's like an echo of the conscience of our culture.
Yeah.
In these very simple things. And I don't think that any other culture that I know of is as like tied to these little colloquial phrases as we are.
Yeah.
And it's just like little bits of wisdom that are been passed down from these people that made us. And it's amazing to see that you have something like that. But I also feel the weight of it. I could see it, like
yeah, absolutely.
It's not something that feeling like you can fill the shoes must be a big weight of expectation.
Fear is a great tool. Failure is a great tool. Because if you're always winning, what's the point? What's the point of adversity? There is none. There is none. Un líder que se caiga 7 veces, aún se tiene que levantar 7 más.
7 más.
I'm not self-made. I stepped into some shoes. But because of that, I work harder.
Facts.
I wake up at 5 in the morning. I try to wake up at 4 sometimes, but 5 is my thing, and I'm at it. I'm at it at 5 in the morning. See, these are habits that I saw my dad do. Like I saw my dad always wake up at 4 in the morning, like out the house by 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
Va a aprenderle la birria, porque el proceso de la birria se tarda 5 horas.
Yeah.
¿Verdad? Pero a lo que yo admiro más de mi papá, güey, es que es el tipo que se quita su playera si otro camarada lo ocupa para dársela.
El servicio.
El servicio.
Eso es lo que sigues diciendo.
And then I'm like, that's a service. And it's a very interesting story, the story of the restaurant, because my dad opened that one up with like $1,500, right? And he was renting it first, and it was from this lady that was there. She sold Mexican breakfast, So he went there and he's a very likable guy. Ramón. Que cómprame. De ahí, bueno, ahí tenían poquito guardado mi papá y mi mamá porque iban a tener a mi otra hermana. Y era para el hospital, ¿no? Pero se vino esta oportunidad, hay que lanzarnos, se lanzaron. So they got the location on 87th in 1973 for that amount of money.
Wow.
Right? They were renting. So it was the first initial, and then they started renting. And then they moved upstairs, and then my dad bought the whole building. Y ya se hizo así, ¿verdad?
Wow.
Poco a poco. Pero they were sleeping on a mattress, bro. I don't know what it's like to sleep on a mattress and only have a little stove and a little fridge. I don't know what it's like to be able to, or to have to manage your money in the way of, am I going to eat today, tomorrow?
Right. Yeah.
My dad and my mom did. So, you know, the whole story of like, and I bring it back to that because, yeah, it's a huge weight.
Yeah.
Because they started from nothing, and I'm here just filling in the role. And yes, I do have plans. Yes, I'm currently working on some stuff. Yes, I'm trying to expand the business and make it bigger.
Yeah.
And make it come into fruition, my dreams.
Yeah.
But I have to remember, dude, these aren't my babies. These are my father's babies, and I have to take care of them. So, and the birria goes even further back. I mean, this started in 1927 con mi bisabuelo in Mexico.
Oh.
You know, he went from San Juan del Monte a Huentitán. De Huentitán se tuvo que ir a Ocotlan a caballo, güey. Y ahí comenzó la birria por necesidad. Sí. Porque tenía como a 14 o 13, no me acuerdo muy bien, hijos y hijas. ¿Verdad?
14 hijos?
Yeah, something along those lines. So, and my grandpa was the youngest one out of all of them.
Wow.
Right? So, se trajo toda su familia de Huentitán a Ocotlan y su vecino le vendió una chiva que ya no le daba leche a la chiva. Oye, Tereso se llama, en paz descanse. ¿Quieres esta chiva y la chingada? Sí, ¿cuánto? 5 pesos. 5 pesos. Pues Tereso se acordó que él tenía un tío en el DF que hacía birria, no sé, un chingo de especias, la cocina 5 horas y mongas, ya tienes como...
En el DF.
Ajá, de la ciudad. Un tío. El punto que le dio a comer a toda su familia birria, porque ya tenían carne, y luego le llevó al vecino, y el vecino le dijo, ¿por qué no la vas a vender? Okay. So he went off, and he went to go sell it. And he took the 2 oldest and his son. One was carrying the tortillas. The other one had the cash drawer. And then he was with his little buggy taking the meat, the chivo. Se acabaron todo la birria. Entonces, ¿qué pasó? With the money, he bought another chivo. And then another one. Y de ahí comenzó la birria.
Wow. It is imperative to be able to have a platform to stand on, to jump higher, right? And you have that. So I think it's really interesting because you do have this amazing opportunity. You have an amazing platform. You have an amazing legacy. You have an amazing product and brand. And like just the story, bro, the story it's incredible. So I think that, you know, it is your kind of responsibility to have a vision so obnoxiously big that it could not possibly become reality because those are the ones that make it a reality.
It's always interesting to push yourself.
Yeah.
In little things. I push myself. I have to work out.
Yeah.
I have to read. I have to meditate. I have to connect with other people. I have to make sure my staff is good. Everything's good with the businesses because people eat from there. I have to make sure my clients go. These things I push myself every single day to do. Why? Because it hardens me. It hardens my skin. It gives me a worth, right? And although I can sit here, I'm not my name. I love being Mexican. I love my culture. I'm Mexican American, carnal. I could go have burgers right now and tacos. And
you speak you have the good accents on both languages, which is impressive.
Thank you. It's the school, bro.
You know, it might be.
Okay, so no. What I'm getting at is that we have opportunities, bro. It's just we have to find them. Yeah. And then when we find them, we have to take them and embrace it. Because, like I said, destiny. I always fought to be a birrero, but hey, I'm here now. Why did I fight it so much?
Yeah.
Why was I in denial?
I'm like that right now, bro. I'm like, if the last 10 years of my life I would have actually been proud and, empowered by my identity, where would I be now? And that shit is the biggest thing that keeps me up at night. And that's why I'm trying so hard to like connect. That's why I'm becoming more Mexican, because I already was. I didn't let myself be that.
Yeah.
And I still call it to this day my biggest mistake. But obviously it is what it is. Here we are. You just gotta keep going.
Para darte tus flores, carnal, I'm very it's impressive what you created what you've done. It's like it's very empowering when I saw you doing all this stuff, and we just the Birrieria Ocotlan just signed with your app, Cash Drop, and I love it. I've used it for a week, and I love it.
Let's get a little shout, and I'm kidding. We talked on the phone the other day. Thank you for that. It was really good. You kind of told us a little bit about your experience, what you like about it. So could you kind of tell us a little bit how that's been for you?
It's straightforward, man. Because I have my old POS system, and that was working like a charm. But here's the thing: I was cash only. We've been cash only since 1973. Okay, and for various reasons, particularly not trusting banks, not trusting the processing fees, not trusting the language barrier with my father, and on my part, ignorance. On my part, ignorance, because I'm stepping into something new territory, right? Yeah. And I talked to my accountant. I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna do it." He was like, "Yeah, finally." I was like, "Okay, cool." So there was another POS system we tried out. It wasn't working. And what I told you how to do our menu.
Yeah.
So I showed you the menu. I showed it to one of your guys, to Christian, and then you guys mimicked it. I was like, okay, so that's how my menu list. That's my list. It's easy. If I ever have a problem, I'm able to call who and so, and then you guys are able to fix it. Now I can accept credit cards. Easy. And the fees? What fees? There's no fees. You're not, so it's like you are creating a system for the people, by the people, which the Constitution should be.
The Latino Renaissance.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's why I love it, bro. So I hope I hope a lot more businesses hop on.
Thank you, bro. I mean, that's what we're doing. Like, there's no Latino payment companies, like I was telling you, and there's so many Latino businesses, language barrier, trust barriers. There's just so many factors of it that I'm like, I can't possibly just sit down and hope that Square or Toast are gonna address these issues, because they don't fucking care. They don't fucking care. But I care, because I came from this community. Yeah. So it's my responsibility to do so. So there's a lot of really interesting things at play. And it's really awesome to be able to have conversations like this with people like you, because at the end of the day, we're kind of like all one and the same, right? Like we're all tiny little water droplets in the tsunami that's coming, about where the future of America is. And there's, one of the last topics I want to dive into. Some of our investors in New York, they're really, into trends and data, and they did this really big study about Latino Heritage Month, not Hispanic Heritage Month. But they just dropped these stats that blew my fucking mind. And it's just three particular numbers that really, impacted me. U.S. Latinos, the fifth largest economy in the world, bigger than France, UK, India. India has 1.3 billion people, This is just Latinos in the U.S. But the number that blew my mind the most was that Latinos represent 80% of new business creation. 80%. It's not even like a tiny majority. It's like the overwhelming. And when I saw that, I was like, fuck, our people are natural born jefes. They're not employees. We're not training people to work for others. We're literally breeding people to fucking own businesses, right? Latinos are 52% of the population growth. What does America look like in 30, 40, 50 years?
You already know the answer to that.
I already know the answer to that. So that, to me, I'm like, it fills me with this great deal of responsibility, because right now we are the most able we'll ever be. We're literally at the peak of life, right? I'm 31, you're 34. It's kind of our time to kind of take the baton and really just evolve and impact and impregnate the American scene with our values, with our morals, with the way that we want the world to be, because in 20, 30, 40, 50 years, we are going to become a very hard to ignore, segment of this population, and we already are economically. So you know, I think that this is why meeting people like you, it's really amazing because I think, you know, Mexicans, and I speak, like you said, I'm a Mexican, so that's what I speak. We can be very isolative. You know, it's really hard for people sometimes to come together, collaborate. You know, if it's not in the context of some peace day or some party for like one time for whatever, it's really hard to like sit down as businessmen, as like creatives, as entrepreneurs. It's even hard to acknowledge that we're somewhat successful. Yeah. We don't really think about it because we're always like, we're always in the shadow of somebody bigger than us. But I think that's what keeps us humble, right? Like, in my mind, like I will never be as good of a person as my dad was because my dad fucking sacrificed himself so I can have this chance. No matter how many zeros I have in the bank account, it'll never be anything compared. And I feel like you always kind of feel like that about your dad a little bit, you know, like. But I think it's what'll keep us moving. That's how you know you don't become the statistical casualty; you become the outlier. So, you know, I'm curious to kind of dig into that for you, you know, to kind of finish off because it's really awesome, you know, to live in this time that we have with these statistics that are being thrown in our way and just having the ability to actually create the change you want to be is the most exciting thing to me. And I feel like you feel somewhat the same.
Yeah, absolutely. What was it? I think it's, to be exact, 70 million? 70 million?
68 point something, yeah.
Yeah. So about 70 million in the U.S. And why stop now? For me, I'm asking myself with this. Why stop now, carnal? If this is your clientele, you know. If we spoke about it, if we want to leave a legacy, dude, like, why stop now? Keep on going.
Right.
What motivates me is my legacy, and what motivates me is that I'm able to provide for other people. What truly, really motivates me, man, is my family, knowing that I could be a good guy or quote unquote good guy. And know that I'm doing the next right thing by providing for other families. That's it, man. Like, what else do I have in life?
My last question always, I always ask people what their favorite quote is and why. But for Mexicans, I always ask, what's your favorite dicho and why? But you've been dropping dichos all fucking episode. Man. But I know that you have a really cosmopolitan education on a fucking political science and all.
Yeah.
And you dropped the Shakespeare quote, so I'm curious.
Yeah.
You know?
Let's go.
No dichos this time, just already dropped enough. What's your favorite quote and why? And what's it mean to you?
Meet time as time meets you. And that's because it resonates with me.
Yeah.
That quote resonates a lot with me because I never knew how to meet time. I never knew how to take advantage of opportunities, and I always fought against it. And now that I'm where I'm at, it's like I'm pretty happy. You know, I'm really happy that I'm able to do what I do. Yeah, it's long hours. Yeah, it could be stressful. Yeah, dealing with permits and the city and all this other stuff can be a pain in the ass. But I have a beautiful family. I have the best employees in the entire world, and I have the best client base in the entire world. What else can a man ask for?
It's very insightful. I've learned, and I relate a lot to that quote because I feel like a lot of time, success, the idea of success, and I think at the end of the day, the game of life, it's all about timing.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be ready. You have to be willing to be ready. You have to be able to know when to jump in because life only knocks at your door so many times.
Yep.
And so that's a quote that I take with me. So thank you very much for that. I think it's been an amazing combo. I think we just started peeling the onion, by the way. But I see myself a lot in you, and I think we're gonna be great friends. I hope. I think that, you know, just meeting people like this and even sharing the conversations, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that this podcast had an audience of one, right? Like, I always want my guests to just only talk to themselves at their most vulnerable point. That's what I talk to. You know, I'm talking to that 16, 17-year-old version of me that's like hopeless, undocumented, and it feels like this is the end of the world when life was barely just fucking beginning for me. And if I felt like that, there has to be millions of others. I'm not special. I don't think you are either. And I say this all the time with great pride. Like, our stories aren't special, they're powerful, right? That's what matters, because when you start to realize that you're not as alone as you thought that you were, that you're not as rare as you thought, that's when the safety in numbers kicks in and you're like, we can start a fucking movement. Now we can have souls in this army to actually get shit done and change the state of the world and create the world we want to live in. So I think that's what I take from this convo. I it's really amazing sharing knowledge with you, bro. So appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you thank you for having me. Great office, by the way. I love it.